just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
Hello and welcome to SOUQ Business Landscape, where we go beyond news to uncover what happened, why it matters, who wins, who loses, and what comes next. I am Olumide Shokoya. Of course, I'm not the only one doing this. I have Dr. Idahosa Osamaze. Good morning. Happy Friday.
Good morning, Olumide. Good morning, viewers out there. Pleasure to be here again this morning.
All right, so I was just reading a story on Punch newspaper. It says about 94 countries, as a result of the U.S. Israel-Iran war, they've introduced some form of subsidy to their economy, price supports and some other things and all that. What do you think, comparing what Nigeria is facing now? Do you think, why do you think these countries are, introducing this kind of price support and subsidies?
Yeah, I think each country has their own peculiar challenges and situations. Depending on what your problems are, will determine how you intervene. And don't forget that the duty of government is to ensure that redistribution of wealth is done adequately so that the weak are not completely muzzled out. So government has that one singular responsibility to ensure that the vulnerable within its means are protected. And every country is doing a lot toward that direction. I think our country is also not immune in that regard. You don't forget that we talked about introduction of the CNG buses,
yes,
the conversion kits and the gases that was put in place. All these are part of the measures that nations have put in place to ensure that the cushioning effect of public transportation is ameliorated. But I think there's so much we can still do, especially in the area of mass transit, which is not working as it were. I really wish that the train system is adequately functional in Nigeria. Part of the pressure would have been ameliorated. And I think these are some of the things that government must think about in the long run.
Do you think that we should look towards having oil reserves like some other nations? They had about, they went 3 months. All they had to do was just open their oil reserves and the country was doing well.
Well, I think those people are well off.
We are developing.
It's a situation that we find ourselves.
Yes.
I think it was Obasanjo I was listening to, and I was saying, oh, when we left, we had about 45 billion in the reserve. What happened to it? And I said, well, please ask good Lord Jonathan. See, because the situation where Obasanjo left Nigeria is not one that people can compare today, because you had assets to sell, and most of the regimes that came after you had no asset to sell. So, and then they had to also survive and ensure that they meet their daily obligations to civil servants, to the public in terms of providing public infrastructure and the rest of it. And the only way for them to do that is to have to rely on the things that were on the ground. So these are the challenges. You see, when you miss an opportunity, it is difficult for you to recover it. Like you say in marketing, if you lose 10% of money or 1% of money, it will take you like 11% to be able to recover it back.
Yes.
And it goes on and on and on. So these are the issues that faces us as a country. The things that we would have done when we had the opportunity that we left to do, they are the thing haunting us at the moment. And they really, we can't blame successive government for what they inherited. And that's the real situation where we find ourselves.
All right, so let's move on to what we have today. The stock market, the Nigerian stock market, is losing ground. Businesses are still battling multiple taxes, and rising fuel costs are putting even more pressure on households and companies. The Nigerian Stock Exchange loses another 813 billion naira as its losing streak continues. Is this recent market rally turning into a deeper correction? Businesses say federal government or federal tax reforms have not stopped the burden of multiple levies. Why is still this expensive to do business in Nigeria? Now, global energy shocks is pushing petrol and diesel prices higher, and Nigeria protects consumers without borrowing back. Now, subsidy burden. Airlines have just 1 week to agree repayment plans from outstanding ticket charges. Could government deadlines trigger higher fares or deeper financial pressure in the aviation sector? Nigerian banks spent about 76.54 billion naira on advertising in just 3 months. Why are lenders spending billions to compete for your attention and your money? The presidency is pushing back against U.S. assessment of Nigeria's fiscal transparency. How transparent is Nigerian public finance system, and what does it mean for taxpayers? And Nigerian onion traders have also suspended their exports to Ghana as trade tensions deepen. Could a dispute over onions expose bigger problems with trade across the West Africa? We'll find out these and many more after this break.
The economy is changing. Technology is advancing. Industries are evolving. The question is, are your skills keeping up? Today's job market rewards adaptability. New skills create new opportunities, and continuous learning increases earning power. Whether it's digital literacy, technical training, financial education, or entrepreneurship, investing in your skills is one of the smartest investments you can make. Because buildings and machines drive development, but skilled people drive economies. Learn more, earn more, contribute more. Empower yourself, strengthen the workforce, build the future. This message supports sustainable economic development.
Welcome back to SOUQ Business Landscape. Now, the Nigerian Exchange Limited closed Thursday's trading session on a bearish note, extending the market's multi-day decline. The all-share index fell by 949.71 points, representing a 0.39% decline to close at 243,017.38 points, down from 243,967.09 points recorded Wednesday. Now, the decline also affected total equities market capitalization, which fell by 613.08 billion naira to 156.88 trillion naira. This latest loss extends the market pushback after it reached a recorded high earlier in the week, as renewed selling pressure continues to weigh in on investor sentiments and reverse some of the gains recorded during the recent rally. Now, Doctor, if I may ask, what changed between market reaching high and this current sell-off? It started, I think, from Monday, and we're seeing it continue.
Well, I think we had a conversation around this yesterday, talking about day before yesterday, where we're talking about some of the sell-off. And I think it's natural in the stock market. And these times are always there when you find that the market goes up, the market comes down, and depending on the circumstances where we find ourselves. So these are all issues. People are filing reports for their first quarter, and the rest of it, and companies are aligning and realigning. So there's a whole lot of factors that must be accounting for this short fall in the market. But I don't think it's anything to panic about. Investors must realize that in the capital market, it's a long-term journey, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, like they say. So you have to invest looking into the fortunes, the futures, as it were. So I think that there's no need for panic. It will rebound. The fundamentals are not in any way difficult. Where people should become worried is if the companies involved are having challenges in terms of profitability. As long as we see this company making more money, declaring more profit, I don't think there's anything to worry about. It's just the natural market dynamics.
So
that you go to the market today, if the conditions are right, things goes up. If the condition changes, some things come down. So that dynamic is what we are going through. And I can tell you that by next week, you will see again another bullish rally.
So can we just say this is just some form of correction, and by next week, we would see market reaching highs?
Well, you see, in the normal market or selling balance, if you go to the village market, you see, you go to the market, you find people who are willing to buy.
Yes.
And then, of course, you determine to say, okay, well, I have small, you can do shakara small. But when you have so much supply and the people who want to buy are very few, then that price will be adjusted. So that self-regulating mechanism of the market, I think, is what it is. So people are in their normal element when they want to buy or they don't want to buy. So that dynamics of supply and demand is always what determines price in the market economy.
So for those coming into the capital market, do you think this is an attractive time for them to buy in?
Well, it depends on the stock that you are trading. I was talking with a friend of mine on Tuesday, and we're talking about selling off one bank stock and buying the other. And I said, well, it's difficult for you to actually predict what's going to happen within a bank. So, because a certain bank stock moved from 59 or thereabout, and now it's selling at 140. And in this same straight week we are talking about, it has not lost. It's going up. So, and I think these are the things that people must look at. So, as investors, when the market is down, it's the right time to buy. But people must understand that this is for the future. So you can put something in the market today, and then, of course, the change is coming down. It doesn't mean that it's going to go down forever. After a while, it will start to pick up. So the graph is always like this, always like this. If it is like this, all straight, then something is wrong.
Thank you very much. Whether bullish or bearish, we will keep on tracking the capital market. Let's move on to the next story. Businesses across Nigeria say they continue to face multiple taxes, levies, and government collections despite sweeping federal government reforms aimed at simplifying the country's tax system. An investigation involving business owners, tax experts, and revenue officials found that implementation remains uneven, particularly at the state and local government levels. Now, reviewing examining tax laws, revenue schemes, payment receipts, and regulatory directives, it found that businesses continue to navigate overlapping charges, collections from different government authorities, increasing compliance costs and administrative pressure. The situation raises concern about whether the reforms are achieving their goal of creating a simpler, more predictable tax environment for businesses across Nigeria. Doctor, what's your thoughts on this report? Multiple tax.
Well, I think that's the whole idea why the tax reform itself became very necessary. We were at that threshold where we were wanting to see how to eliminate multiple taxes from the citizens and businesses so that government will find a way to build it taxing the seed, the fruits and not the seed, as the philosophy of the current regime is. But I think the bigger issue here is the fact that, yes, we are all preparing toward the full implementation of the tax reform, but I'm not sure that we have actually taken off in earnest, because a lot of people still expecting that the January 1st date for the takeoff, then we'll be able to assess properly whether these things can actually work, because there's a whole lot of transition that needs to be done. So that harmonization, implementation, I think that's where we are now. Now, the laws are there, which of course are the bedrock for the implementation. So let's see what government is going to do as we approach 1st of January, because that's when actually the new regime is supposed to take absolute...
Next year?
Yes, January 1. We're looking at January, so by next year. So, and don't forget that, of course, we are also very cautious in terms of implementation of some of these principles, because it's quite close to elections. We must not take that advantage away, because people are slowing down, and the full implementation is going to take off probably after the next election, in my view.
All right. Also, you said, we talked about, in one of our talks, we were saying that Dangote refinery pays a whole lot of taxes. Isn't there a way we can merge or collapse everything into one? So if, for instance, if I'm a business owner, a manufacturer, or whatever industry I find myself, all I have to do is just make that payment once, and I know I don't have to be making to whether to state, local government, this, that, one body, one agency. Every other thing is all collapsed into one.
I think that's where the government is at the moment. How to reduce this burden on businesses. The MD of Dangote raised that alarm some months back to say, oh, there are a lot of agencies where they pay taxes to and the rest of it. But what do we really see on the table is the fact that local governments want to survive, the state government want to improve their IGR, federal government want to improve IGR, and the only way states raise money is through taxes and fines or levies, as we always say here.
Yes.
So these agencies of government must have to be assured that revenue is going to come to them, even if federal allocation is not going to come, or may not be enough to adequately take care of the need of that regime. They must also look inward to see how to generate funds, because that competition for internally generated revenue is also part and parcel of the changes that we are going through, except that federation is not operating the way it should operate, where the right financial autonomy is granted to each level of government. Otherwise, companies should not have this, to face this idea of a multiple tax. But what you find is that the land belongs to the government, but it's situated in a local government, and the local government wants you to pay for some certain services that they give to you in their local government. And then the state, of course, who is the custodian, say, oh, we are the custodian, we want to get something from you. And then the federal say, well, this is, the entire country belongs to us. We must find a way to take our things ourselves from the system. So all these issues are the challenges that a lot of people face. But really facing out those informal collection, I think that's where the government need to actually step up.
All right, so how would these taxations, how would they affect the final price, consumers pay for goods and services? And also, which businesses are the most vulnerable? The SMEs, the manufacturers, the retailers, transportation operators, who bear the cost?
I feel tax affects everybody equally, whether you are SME or a big corporation. And I think the level or the degree to which people can absorb the pains is what is different. So whether we are talking about small, whether business people, big industries, all of us are affected one way or the other by tax revenue that government collects. But what is the important thing is the fact that your ability to be able to transfer that into your pricing. So with increased prices, taxes, of course, what you find is that prices are going up. And so what government is trying to do to harmonize this thing, and probably possible, to eliminate some of these taxes is that so that businesses become more profitable, and at that point, government is able to tax whatever profit that they are earning. So I think that is what it is. I'm not seeing anything that's extraordinarily increasing, except that we are still at the same level before the new tax came in. So hopefully that if this new taxation regime takes full effect, then we'll be able to assess, to see where we're coming from and where we are now. What's the difference? But I think in terms of collection, we are far off than where we're coming from.
So in your opinion, do you think this new tax reform, we're looking at January 1st, do you think it would encourage businesses to remain informal or, of course, discourage new investment?
Well, I don't see taxes discouraging people. If there's anything that we have seen, is the willingness of people to pay. A lot of people are willing now to submit to the tax authority because certain things are put in place to help address some of the basic issues that faces tax payer. Take, for example, the ombudsman, which is supposed to be the justice aspect of this new regime. And if the ombudsman is able to mediate between company and the government in terms of the taxes that are payable or the one that are remittable, these are mechanisms that are put in place that everybody is going to benefit from. But the person who is taxed, especially when it's corporation, does not pay the tax itself. It transfers to the final goods. So the people at the last mile are actually the one who want to take the burden of that taxation and take a lot from their profit. A lot of informal taxes, too many in Nigeria, and I feel that we get to that point where we are able to eliminate it. And I think the government needs to take a very bold stand in some of all these issues. I was watching the Deputy Governor of Lagos spoke about some of these things in one of the recent forums that they had, and somebody was asking, all these people that are on the road, how are we going to take it away? And the governor said it's not decent, but all of us must agree that they should leave.
So how do we take them away? How do we harmonize it?
Let me give you a very practical scenario. I got back home yesterday and my wife was lamenting to me that some people who were selling on the shanty along the street, that the council people have come to chase them away. For a lot of people, they are emotionally attached to these people. That emotional attachment is the problem. That if we're saying, okay, let's allow these people to go, and somebody say, oh, that's somebody's means of livelihood.
But doctor, these roadside sellers, they pay some form of taxes to some of these ag bureaus. Where's that money going to?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Those are the informal taxes we're talking about. So it's not as if that Nigerians are not paying taxes. It's only that the taxes that Nigerians pay does not get to the right source. Doesn't get into the hands of government. It gets into the hands of some private people who are so powerful that it is difficult for the state to actually control them.
Are they more powerful than the government?
Yeah, that is why I remember in 2021 when the fragility index were measured across West Africa or African countries, Nigeria was one of the most fragile states in the world because government has virtually lost control about some certain people. So these are the challenges that you find. Some people are so powerful today because of the kind of influence they wear that it is difficult for government to actually assess them properly and said, okay, this thing, we don't want it, let it stop. But when we were growing up, they used to say that after God is government.
Yes.
But we don't know where those powers are right now. Because the government needs to be able to demonstrate some, how am I going to call it, political will.
Yes.
To deal with some major issues.
Yes.
Why is it requiring political will? Because sometimes, like people argue, some of these people are the foot soldier for the politicians. And of course, you know you cannot take appropriation to come and give to them. All you just need to do is to create an avenue where these guys are able to take either their daily bread or whatever it is. So, government deliberately leave these blind spots to cater for some of these needs. Because you cannot, in your budget, and say, okay, I'm allocating 20 billion to the people who help me win elections, especially those who stand along the road. So these are the challenge that government is facing. And until we get to that point where we are not able now to rely on these people for election. I was presenting a paper yesterday, and one of the arguments I made, especially in terms of digitization of Nigeria, that it can help deepen democracy. Just imagine that we are no longer having to queue for votes. Only very few people will do that. Some people can send a ballot from their home, like they're doing in the US. Some people can vote online without necessarily going to the booth.
But we say there's no internet connectivity in the nooks and crannies.
Yeah, yes, it may not be the nooks and crannies, but those in Lagos can vote where they have internet. Those in Port Harcourt can vote. Those in Abuja can vote. So what it means is that you are only expounding the participation base. So those who don't want to go and spend hours on queue to be accredited and then to cast their ballots and then have to wait for vote to be counted, those people just sit in their home and watch television on the voting day. But if you say that, look, you don't need to come out on the comfort of your home, on the comfort of your office, with your telephone, you can make a vote. All these people that are running around, they will no longer be relevant. So at that time, party will sit down to really negotiate with the people and see how they can make promises that are realistic to the people, and then the people are willing to either vote them in or vote them out.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next story. Now, as countries introduce fuel subsidies and other palliative measures to cushion the impact of the U.S.-Iran war and the Strait of Hormuz closure, Nigeria continue to face rising petrol and diesel prices. The International Energy Agency said that more than 115 countries have introduced measures to respond to the energy shock. Now, these include energy conservation programs, price support, and structural policies aimed at reducing consumption. Now, energy economists and industry stakeholders are calling for targeted interventions in Nigeria to ease pressure on households and businesses. They argue that rising fuel costs are increasing transportation, production, and operating expenses, placing additional strain on consumers and businesses already dealing with high living costs. Doctor, I know we've had so many reforms. We've had the CNG, which you earlier mentioned. We had the CNG. There was a time civil servants were paid wages award or something like 35,000 naira. We've had so many. There was a time an amount was proposed to Nigeria. I think it was about 70 or 50,000 naira. The Nigerians rejected and said, no, we don't want that since it's coming from a loan and all that. We've tried so many things. Even a story came yesterday that they're planning to reduce taxes for imported electric vehicles so that Nigeria can, move from depending on fuel into electricity. But there's still power shortages and all that. In all of this, how do you think Nigeria is faring? If we were to go to the street and ask an ordinary Nigerian, do you think these reforms that we've done, do you think they have been a success?
Well, I think we cannot sufficiently measure the outcome or performance of a reform based on when people use the concept common man on the street.
Public opinion.
We need to know who this common man is.
Okay.
Because you see, sometimes we hide some things to say common man on the street. In our country today, I know of some corporations that are paying what they call cost of living allowance today to their staff.
What's the percentage of those collecting that?
Yeah, some companies are paying. Some companies have increased salaries for their staff.
What's the percentage?
Governments work out to they have received some salary. Government has done wage award for some categories of staff. Government has introduced what they call consumer credit. Government has introduced now fund for students who want to go to school. All these are part and parcel of the palliatives that are put on the ground to cushion the effect of how people are affected by the changing dynamics of the global politics or global economic crisis that we currently face as a result of the brutal war in the Middle East. So when you put all these things together, it's that the people who really suffer the most are those who don't work at all. They are the one that suffers the most. And the question to even ask is, why do we have people who don't want to work? Is it that we don't have work to do, or that people are deliberately selecting the kind of job they want to do? These are questions that we need to ask honestly, because even if government makes $200 billion every day, I'm not sure it's the business of government to be moving from house to house to go and be giving people money to eat. So even if you give them money on a monthly basis, they will still not see it as adequate. And this is the nature of the society that we serve. So when we talk about measuring the impact and the success of the common man, sometimes it can be absolutely very vague. But how do you measure the impact? Is by looking at the numbers. What has happened to our external reserve? Is it depleting or is it growing? We also need to find out what's happening in the state of our infrastructure. Are we investing in infrastructure or divesting from it? We need to find out what happened to government's obligations. Are government meeting their obligations in terms of paying back all the loans that we're taking and the rest of it? All these things are the things that we have to look at to be able to assess whether reforms are working. And I don't think there's anywhere in the world where people make reform and then money are put in the pocket of the ordinary man. But the truth of the matter is that no matter how much money you earn, it will still be not enough, depending on your lifestyle. So I think what is, for me, the ultimate is that people adjust their living condition. I have always argued this, and I will continue to argue it. If somebody thinks that I can live the way my father lived, or the way my grandfather lived in the 21st century, that person is only joking and deceiving him or herself, because the dynamics have shifted, obviously. Yes, and these are the things that we must have to contend with. These things we must have to, the reality that we must live with. No matter how much of analysis we do on a table, on a radio station, to assure that life is going to be better for everybody, I think obviously it's not going to make any difference. Take, for example, in the last 1 month, the price of petrol on the pump had gone down twice. In the middle of July, it came to about 1,000. From 1,003, it came to 1,260 in some places.
But it was less than 500 before.
Today is 1,208 or 1,200 in some places. So it's actually not climbing from where the reform started from. We see this measure of stability, you know. And I don't think that if, for example, people were buying diesel to run generator at almost 2,000 naira per liter, for example, and have increased wages, are now going to tell their staff to say, because diesel is now selling at 1,650, we want to reduce your salary. I don't think any business is going to make that kind of decision. But the business is making some further gains. Yeah. And of course, even the man who is collecting the money from people who commute is not going to reduce what he was collecting last month, even when the prices of petrol have gone down. So it's beyond what the reform itself is doing. It's how we respond to the reform that is actually the bigger problem that society faces. So, yes, reform will create some pain, no doubt, because It's taking you off your comfort zone. How do we conserve energy? These are the conversations that people must now begin to have. How do we reduce cost of doing business so that those who are commuting from time to time are not? So we have a lot of hybrid system that is working across many spaces today. So how do we avoid unnecessary expenditure or journeys that are not necessary at all so that we can conserve petrol? All these measures are being taken, and I'm not immune.
All right, so what role, if we've talked about petrol and all that, so let's look at gas, LPG or cooking gas, let's look at CNG, renewables, and of course, electric mobility. What roles do you think these are playing, to reduce Nigeria's vulnerability from petrol and diesel?
Yeah, but like I said, if you look at it, you talk about the cooking gas.
Yes, it went up. It was at 2,000, it's coming down, it's,
Now, I think 1 kg, as the last time I got, was 1,008 naira in my neighborhood. Now, and that is down from 1,008 and 1,200. So even the prices have come down. Now, like I said, in a market economy, the forces of demand and supply will always determine what the prices of goods and services are.
Not availability of resources, because gas at a point, we weren't getting enough of it, and the price...
Yeah, but that is why the prices went up, because it's the forces of demand and supply. So if you have abundance of it, you can regulate price. But if you don't have, the few people who have wouldn't want to sell at a normal regular price. They have to jack up their prices. So the point is that how do we increase and ramp up supply so that we can have enough of it and then price can be fairly stable? And I think that is what the work and the job of the government is in terms of managing the macroeconomic indices that affect some of all these prices. How do we stabilize inflation? How do we work on the rate of exchange and the interest rate for banks and the rest of it? And once these monetary measures are taken, is to ensure that we have a stable, fairly stable economy. So, but the point I'm painting is where we were at the beginning of July, when LPG went up, it has since come down. So if it's down, and I don't think it should be something of concern.
It should be. It's cooking gas. It's
but it's down from 2,000 to 1,008 or 1,100.
As at 2 months ago, it was about 1,002 in my area. So it's
that's what I'm saying.
It's still high.
It has come down from 2,000
to 1,800.
It should come to 1,800. Now it has come to 1,100 or 1,008 naira in some places, depending on where you are buying. So that is a reduction. It's not a spike. It's down to a certain level. Yeah. So we must also have to commend the effort of the managers for able to sustain that downward trend of the cost. Same has happened to diesel. Diesel got to 2,000. But today, in some pump, you can buy at 1,650. Some people are selling at 1,550. So, which means, of course, we have also reduced the price. And that should naturally affect the common man. But unfortunately, the people who are buying this diesel will reflect these things on their prices. And therefore, the average man on the street will not be able to feel the impact of this. Because here we find an environment when prices increase, everybody jack up prices. But when they come down, we just go to sleep, as if nothing has happened.
So should we establish price regulation agencies?
I think we have enough of price regulation agency. Consumer Protection Commission is there, yes, FCPC. So those people are there to actually maintain, and that is when customers come to them to say, okay, we have this problem. But when people are not complaining, the FCPC job is not to be going to businesses and say, you must bring down your price. No, it's not their business, because they don't have the investment in there.
Okay.
Because even the people who have those investments can also tell you and say, look, our component, our output component is not just petrol alone or diesel. There are other things that affect the determinant of the price of goods and services. So to that extent, this is what we feel is convenient at that time. People can even argue that, oh, when that price went up, we made some losses. So this is only a cushion for us to recover. So these are the challenges that we find in the environment. And if you use public transport like me.
I was coming to that. Transportation costs.
So you find that on a normal day, you get to a bus stop and you want to take a public transport and they tell you it's 1,000. And then, of course, all of a sudden the cloud changes and it becomes 2,000.
Yes.
That is not a function of your pump price. It's not a function of your pump price.
How do we resolve this?
And there's nobody you can cry to.
Especially in the morning.
So this where the concept of humanity sets in, where people who also have conscience to understand that they themselves can be in that shoe some of that time.
Yes.
So, but unfortunately, they take it as an opportunity and they exploit it to their advantage. So these are the issues that really affect the common man on the street. And it is difficult for government to actually legislate justice, except it is government's building. Government's business, for example. Now, look at rent also.
Yes.
A man who built his house since 1974 is increasing the house rent because the price of cement has increased. But he's not using new cement.
What about those renovating?
You see, that's the point. He's not doing any renovation. He has been collecting that rent up to that point. So all of a sudden they say, oh, cement price has gone up. And then the man jack up the cost of rent. So these are the things that the common man on the street are suffering. It's not a new house that was built. The house was built and had been there. No maintenance is done. And in some cases, it's even the tenants that are doing the maintenance in those houses.
Yes.
And yet the landlord come and increase house rent. And he tells you, oh, cement price has gone up. So what is he doing with cement? So these are the reality of our living, that some of us need to be humane enough to put themselves on the shoes of others. And as long as we cannot do that, then there's a problem. I was telling somebody, if you go to UK on a Christmas day or Christmas Eve, the fare will naturally drop in honor of the
festive period.
The festive period. But here, the reverse, the fare goes up.
Yes.
So people are looking for ways to support the poor elsewhere. But here we are exploiting the poor. So I think it's our humanness that is actually the bigger issue in terms of how we respond to the issues of the reforms around us. We've had those arguments over the years that when, of course, government decided to increase salary for workers, the next day the market woman jack up his price, even when nothing has affected him. So, but they forget that it's not everybody who is government worker. Yes. So all these issues are the things that we as the people must think about.
All right, let's move on to the next story. Now, the federal government has given airlines 1 week to agree on the payment plan for outstanding ticket sales charges, TSC, owed to aviation agencies. The directive was issued by the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo. In a statement posted on his official X account on Thursday, the government's move is aimed at addressing outstanding obligations owed by airlines and improving financial accountability within the Nigeria's aviation sector. Airlines are now directed to engage with relevant agencies, aviation agencies, and agree on payment arrangements within 1 week deadline. Failure to reach an agreement could trigger further actions by the government. Now, Doctor, the airlines, they've charged certain amount from passengers, but the aviation is saying these amounts have not been remitted. Why? What's causing this delay?
Well, it's just natural in business where people are not sincere enough. Some people are not sincere enough. For some people, it's deliberate to also see how you can use other people's funds. They call it OPM, other people's money. To make quick gains and the rest of it. So there's a lot of reason why those things happen. Because ordinarily, this should not be a problem.
Yes.
It should not be a problem. And I think that is one of the areas, like in my paper presentation yesterday, digital government reforms, where we talk about its implication for policy innovation, inclusiveness, and then, of course, sustainability. How do we leverage the use of technology, for example, to ensure that we deepen inclusion? If we have an integrated system that actually connects government to their suppliers, for example, so which means immediately you pay for your ticket.
It goes directly.
The money just wired to all the stakeholders. It doesn't need to stay in the company's account. So if we have such a system that is working in an e-government ecosystem, then we may not get to these issues.
So we're looking at an integrated payment system.
So, but it's like they say, one good turn deserves another.
Explain that further.
Some years ago, it was the turn of government to own airlines.
Yes.
But now it's the turn of the airlines owning the government.
Do me, I do you.
Yeah, but now God is vexing. So I think we need to do a lot to see how to integrate those systems so that when fees are paid, they go directly to their owners, and we don't need to have to get to this point where we have to be making public appeal for these things to be done. But one of the things I also don't understand is we can be much more better in terms of addressing some of these our issues without necessarily having to go to airspace to be announcing some of all these things. And call stakeholders meeting and agree on what can be done. So this calling out, I don't know why it is necessary most of the time for those who run government.
You know, sometimes if we don't name and shame airlines, but what happens if this airline, they've been given a 1-week ultimatum? What happens if they default? So sanctions follow?
You see, it's easy for you to set an ultimatum for a man who is owing you. If you have not made way for him to make the money to pay back, your 1-week ultimatum will just be something that's not realistic. So that's why I'm saying that why do we need to announce this on X? What happened to sitting down with these stakeholders to also ascertain their own side of the story? Why is this delay payment? How can we avoid it so that it does not recur in the future? So these are the conversations that we must be having to say, okay, if it is this way, this is what happened. Let me give you one particular instance. This was in the UAE. You see, when you come down at any of the UAE airports,
yes,
you have a lot of people who are welcoming you and say, welcome to United Arab Emirates. This is a very beautiful country. There's a whole lot of things you can enjoy when you come in here. You know, we like that you are here. In the evening, give us your address, we'll go home and take you out. They're actually trying to sell property to you. And the government discovered that a lot of this money that they were collecting were not coming. The people who were paying them were not getting value for it because there were a lot of complaints. So what the UAE government did was to create a system and a platform where that anybody who wants to pay for money, for land or pay for house, don't pay to the agent directly. They pay it into the local government accounts. And then the realtors go to assess the money based on the milestone that they have achieved. So complaint has stopped. So even if you want to buy a house in the UAE, now the government of UAE, it gives a guarantee. And we can do that in the aviation. Then we avoid some of these issues. So there are things that we don't really need to name and shame to get, but rather that we have to be a lot more strategic in terms of our collections. Yeah, that is the way it is. So if this thing is wired through, for example, remitter, all tickets have to be purchased via remitter. So remitter distribute the money, and so the agents of government get their own, and then the people who are doing their private, they get their own. So I think we can have technology solve some of this problem. And Nigeria must not run away from embracing technology, because it can help us improve our transparency, the visibility of government spending, government revenue can be seen. And so it's also easy for us to see who is owing us and how we can quickly recoup some of those money. So government, there's a lot they can do. If an airline is owing you, you can even write to the commercial banks.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor. We still have more stories coming, but after this break, stay tuned.
Fellow Nigerians, did you know that constituency and executive projects in your communities are not gifts from your legislators? They are projects sponsored by the legislators and funded by the federal government to improve your life and the lives of those around you. These projects belong to you. Without your vigilance, they might never be completed. Don't allow them to fade away into unfulfilled promises. Stand up, take ownership, monitor their progress, demand accountability, and report concerns to ICPC. Call our toll-free line now on 0800-2255-4272 or WhatsApp only on 0806-656-4726. This message is brought to you by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, with support from MacArthur Foundation and the Center for Democracy and Development in Africa, CDD.
Every time you spend money, you make a decision, not just about what you buy, but about the kind of economy you want to build. When you support a local business, you help create jobs, you help families earn, you help communities grow. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy. They reinvest in our neighborhoods. They create opportunity close to home. Before you click buy or choose where to shop, pause and ask, is there a local option? Because strong local businesses mean stronger cities. Stronger cities mean a stronger nation. Support local. Build the future. This message is brought to you in the interest of economic growth and national development.
Welcome back to SOUQ Business Landscape. Let's move on with the next story. Nigeria's deposit money banks increased spending on advertising, promotions, and corporate gifts by 5.35% to 76.54 billion naira in the first quarter of 2026. Now, this figure represents a year-on-year release of 3.89 billion naira from 72.65 billion naira recorded in the corresponding period of 2025. Based on an analysis of unaudited financial statement of 11 banks, the increase came as lenders intensified marketing and promotional activities during the period. Now, the higher spending reflects growing competitions in Nigeria's banking sector, with financial institutions investing more in advertising, customer engagement, and corporate visibility to attract and retain customers. Doctor, are banks competing for deposits, borrowers, digital customers, or market share? I mean,
Well, I know I have said this time without number that at a certain point in our history, things will start to be done rightly.
okay.
Nigerian deposit banks, commercial banks, have not been doing proper banking because there were a lot of opportunities that are created that made hard work really not necessary. You remember that there were times in the early 2000s where the cry was the fact that most of these new generation banks gave very short skirts to young ladies to go and be begging money everywhere.
Yes.
And those that have come and they have gone. And then, of course, we were relying so much on government who needed to borrow. And so we just wait for the FAC to send their money and we take it. And I think those things are settling in gradually for the commercial banks. In the last 3 years or thereabouts, that window is shutting down gradually because most states are no longer relying too much on the commercial bank. And I remember, I think it was last week or the week before, when the Minister of FCT, Jens Owisi, had this media chat and he was telling his audience that when they were governors, sometimes they have to go kneel down, beg commercial banks to give them money. And even assistant managers, as governors, that sometimes when they hear them coming, the manager will just go out from the back door. It was that shameful. But now it's no longer like that. There are many governors don't even need the banks. And so these are changes that are affecting the system. And no thanks also to the impact of fintech, who has also come to enhance inclusion. Some places now, all you just need to do is just dial something and on your telephone, you have opened a bank account. You don't need any opening deposit. You are not filling any form. Fintech has made that space quite democratic. In short, I see many even businesses now prefer to use fintech accounts because they say the money is more sure than the commercial bank. So, and I think that's the era where we are. Like they say, necessity is the mother of invention. And I don't think advertisement alone is able to cure this kind of wound that's been created. There's a lot of things that the banks need to do. They need to, number one, apart from the fact that we put in money, they also need to do investment. Investment in the real sector, investment in agri, so that profit is only just coming from people who are debiting and crediting account. It's also coming from earnings from hard investment. We want to see the bank invest in agriculture, for example, have farms, employ people and make money from the farms, just rather than collecting bank charges alone. So we want to see banks also putting pressure even on CBN to say, okay, how do we work to reduce the risk of borrowing so that our interest rate can come down? Because these are the things that are attracting people to fintech. Otherwise, fintech will take over the entire space. And then we'll have issues with our major banks. So there's a whole lot that banks need to do. While fintechs are borrowing money to people, the banks are still holding back, lending. So these are issues that the banks need to deal with. So you have to create products that will make you as attractive to the customer. So putting billboards, investing in commercial may not do the magic, but the delivery of service is what will be the game changer. And I also think that as people put money in, we must also find a way to ensure that money will invest them wisely, make money through other sources rather than just relying on deposits alone.
All right, so doctor, do you think this aggressive competition for customers might eventually translate into higher fees and charges?
Well, I don't think so. You are digging your grave if you are thinking higher charges. So a lot of people are banking down what they are offering. I got an SMS from a certain bank yesterday and said to me now that, oh, you can spend up to 20,000 if you travel out of Nigeria on your dollar account. That's an incentive.
20,000 naira or dollars?
$20,000, yeah.
Okay.
On the card.
On the card, okay.
Yes, on my card. So these are incentives that banks are offering. Now, banks are also giving opportunity for people to get access to quick loans at very reasonable and affordable rates.
Yes.
All these things are the things that they have to do to attract customers. So increasing rates cannot solve it. It only aggravates the situation. So they are looking for creative way to create incentive so that the people can now participate. And if you move around Third Mainland, you will see all those banks, especially the new ones that say, oh, we finance agricultural exports and imports, we finance this, come to our bank, startups. So all those things we have to create definitely to encourage people to be able to be part of that economy. So what it means today is the era of the banks being the bride of everybody is almost gone. Now they have to now serve every other person. Because if you need business, then you have to do the real work.
So what lessons can these traditional banks learn from fintechs?
I think they are learning it very fast because they're all working in the ecosystem. Everybody's integrating that same system right now and see how they can use that to actually create a lot of value. But what I'm saying is the fact that we will do banking properly the way it's done everywhere else. And both the fintech and the conventional banks are able to live together, and each is getting their value depending on the clients that they are serving.
So if fintechs are offering cheaper loans, what can banks do? Because especially the informal sector, they are tilting, or it's almost like the fintechs have captured the informal sector with cheaper loans, accessible, little to no guarantors needed and all that. What do you think how can the banks, stand?
Yeah, but you see, it is also through regulations that once CBN come on those fintech and set rules, ground rule for lending and all of that, some of those things will have to stop. And then, of course, but I think that the bankers understand the environment. And that's why we also have services that can compete with what the fintechs are doing. And therefore, I hope that's the reason this increment in terms of marketing their products is concerned. So banks are doing aggressive marketing.
Yes.
And of course, marketing costs some real money. But I think that they will go beyond just billboard to also do consumer intelligence studies to know what the sentiments are in the market. And that alone will even help inform the kind of communication that the bank may need to do eventually. So I think that they understand the market, they are in the space, they know what the challenges are, and they know how to actually deal with this situation. And I think that when we start to have a very prosperous nation, a lot is going to change for the banking system because what people have right now is that only very few people, maybe probably less than 5% of the population, can actually save money in the bank as we speak. Because it's like they say in port language, it's roll in, roll out for many people. So you put in money today, once salary is paid, by the time you get to the end of the month, you are finished spending, waiting for another one. So in that environment, the bank really will not have enough substance to do investment or to even do lending. So because they are not printing money, they are waiting for depositors' money. So it's only those people who can actually leave their money in the bank, maybe in fixed deposits for a long time, that can avail the bank the opportunity to actually turn around whatever thing that they are getting. And of course, you know the way it is now, the law also mandates that by the end of the year, 31st of December, all the books must close and reopen by the 1st of January. So all these are regulations that are put in place. And I think that bankers are also looking for a very creative and innovative way to respond to the challenge of regulations and the environment that the business itself portends for every other person.
All right, let's move on to the next story. The presidency has responded to a U.S. assessment that Nigeria failed to meet minimum fiscal transparency requirement, saying the findings should be viewed as an external benchmark rather than a complete assessment of the country's fiscal governance. Special advisor to the president on media, Sunday Dari, said the federal government remains committed to strengthening fiscal transparency, accountability, and public financial management. Now, the response comes after the 2026 U.S. Fiscal Transparency Report identified gaps in Nigeria's budget reporting and public financial disclosure. The presidency maintains that the government is pursuing reforms to improve financial management, while stressing the external assessment should be considered alongside Nigeria's broader efforts to strengthen transparency and accountability. Now, the two words that appear in this story is transparency and accountability, which Nigerians have always clamored for in our government, in governance and every other thing. Transparency but why do you think the government is refuting this claim, saying that it should not be used as a benchmark to measure what is actually going on?
Well, I think, I would say, let me respond like Father Osi. Greet them with a transparent document.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't want to speak Yoruba, so that it will not be misinterpreted in the public space.
Yes.
So you can greet the U.S. government with a more transparent document.
Yes.
But that said, I think the real big issue here is the fact that in the last 3 years, there's been a lot of confusion.
Yes.
But what is really exciting for me is the fact that the president himself,
yes,
at the presentation of the 2026 budget, had himself admitted the clumsiness surrounding the budget implementation in Nigeria. Because you had multiple budgets running, financed from one source revenue. So when money is released, you cannot really tell which of the budget that money is serving, whether it's the 2023 budget or the 2024 budget or the 2025 budget.
Of 2026.
Because they are all running at the same time concurrently. And the whole issues were the fact that Mr. President inherited a 2023 budget. So, and there were constraints already in terms of the implementation of the 2023 budget. Because take, for example, when Mr. President said subsidy was gone on May 29,
yes,
it was him first saying that, look, I don't think we have money to pay subsidy going forward. But what are the circumstances that surrounded this thing? There were a whole lot of borrowing through ways and means. Government has plenty of obligations to people that were not met. There were a lot of debt that government also incurred, where, of course, their servicing or their terms were due, and these things need to be refinanced and renegotiated. All these circumstances made the implementation of the 2023 budget very difficult, and more so that earnings were not equal to what the expected outcomes were. And then we came with a very ambitious proposal in 2024, which of course had issues again because we're now trying to solve the problem of 2023 in 2024. So two of them were coherent. And then we just have 12 months in a year. And then 2025 budget came. And that was even worse. That government didn't release capital part component of that budget at all. And many of them had to be rolled over into the 2026 budget. I think with time, we can get to that point where we are settled, that we have one single document of expenditure and revenue expectation. So people can see it and say, okay, this is what is happening. So that confusion of running multiple budgets on one source revenue is the challenge that the government is facing at this time. So doing that kind of an accounting is really complex. And so it makes your system look opaque. But it's not to say that somebody is taking money or somebody is hiding something. It's the accounting of the budget that the issues are. And I think those were the issues that the United States of America also responded to, because they also want to know that all the nations that they are supporting, they want to know how they are spending the money. And I think the advice that are given to government, they were quite very generous advice. And I don't think it suggests any untoward, but it's just for government to realize. And I don't think that government must be responding to every issue.
So this concerns about transparency, how would it affect public opinion? What Nigerians, feel about the government?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That if somebody say, look, you have issues in terms of reporting.
Yes.
So you just report right. The federal government made that commitment. And I think the President of the Federation made that commitment for 2026 presentation of the budget to a joint session of the National Assembly. And he said that 2026 was going to be different. So we're just midway into 2026. Let's see what's going to happen as we approach toward the end of this year to see if we can have all the budget closed out this year. And so by 2027, we can have one single budget that's accessible. But I think there's a whole lot of assets that we must also, and I think that is the point that Sunday Dari is referring to. Budget has a lot of data that they can get from budget office in terms of the financing of budgets and which budget is being funded at the rest of it. So I don't think that access is quite something that cannot be gotten. Yeah, but we are saying that put them online. But there's a limit to which our data can be put online.
So in all of this, how do we ensure that there's transparency, there's a lot of scrutiny? I mean, if we look at what happened at the investigative inquiry regarding the PFIC, even the woman from the budget office came out at a point to admit that, yes, there were some setbacks and all that. So how do we ensure that, or which the office should more scrutiny be directed to? Where does this which office does the onus lies to ensure that there's fiscal transparency?
Well, I don't like talking about the
PFI.
PFI, what they call it, the Promotion Investment Council ordeal in Nigeria. It's a sad case, really.
Yes.
And I think that what happened in that is a fact, the issues that we have to contend with as a people. There's a lot of hero worship in Nigeria.
Hero worship.
Worship in Nigeria. And because of that extent, you find a lot of name dropping. And when people drop names, it can lower scrutiny. And we are acting as if we are not Nigerians. Okay. And that worries me a lot. Because even here where you are now, when you hear they say chairman say, the response that you are going to put to that issue will be difficult when they say Joseph said. You understand it?
Yes.
So if they say, oh, this is coming from chairman, you are not going to be even looking at the paper before you approve.
Yes.
So we, as Nigerians, must understand that this is the way we work. And a lot of people have ways of dropping in. And I think that was why some of all these things passed. It's not because there are no systems of check and balances.
Yes.
But for me, which I argued before the House Committee on Public Accounts some 2 years ago, was the fact that we cannot be demanding performance audit without having a performance budget. Because that would be a misnomer. You are doing one-line item budget.
Okay.
The details of those budgets are not spelled out. How do you really audit it and have an adequate or a proper performance audit? It's not possible. So for audit to be as transparent as it should be, is to say that in this year's budget to the National Assembly, we look at overhead, for example, in the recurrent. Salaries, wages for honorable members. Salary, wages for the aides of honorable members.
Okay.
Office running costs. Maintenance. Vehicles, rent. So, we understand the item by item to which this money is allocated. So that when, of course, you're going to do releases, the releases should be based on these items that are listed and they have to be prioritized. So that if you give me 500 million today, I know that this 500 million is meant for the salary and wages of the honorable members, not for the aides, because they are two different people.
But we always have budget defense.
But you see, the budget defense is that you come to say, this is what we are spending on capital projects, this is what we are spending on recurring. The details, they are not as expressly stated in some cases. Because, for example, what goes to the judiciary is a one-line item on the budget. Okay. What goes to the National Assembly is a one-line item. So all those agencies with first line charge, you don't see the details. So I think that it is important that even for the people preparing the budget, should be able to even face projects that cut across year. Take, for example, you want to build an office space for 2 billion. There should be a bill of quantity for that building. And that bill of quantity will determine that if it is DPC, you are the foundation. So, foundation is going to cost 500,000. Now, we are going to do this foundation in 2 years because we are not able to get 500,000. Maybe what we are expecting is 250,000. We will say DPC part 1 this year. So when we are doing the same budget for next year, we don't say DPC part 2 because we are expending the funding to be done in 2 years. And it should be distinct. But most of the time, you find that they say the same building appeared in 2023. In 2024, you still see the same building. In 2025, you still see the same building. And now that creates a sense of suspicion by the populace to say, oh, but the building was in 2023 budget. Why is it not coming and surfacing in 2024 budget? But you don't see the notes that comes with the account that, oh, in 2023, we didn't get fund. And that's why this project is recurring.
Yes.
So all those explanations are needed in those details so that anybody who is assessing what you're doing will be able to say, oh, yes, there's a lot and measure of transparency. And the person who's going to render the account will be rendering the account based on the facts and figure that that budget gives to us. To say, you said computer was going to cost this S number this year. How many computers did you buy? Oh, we bought 20. What happened that you overspent this money? So in that place, you can hold people accountable. But as long as we're doing this envelope system of accounting, it will be difficult to have a proper audit. And for somebody who is seeing you from the other side, who is not where you are, is likely to see the figure as 9 instead of 6 that is facing you.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your contributions on SOUQ Business Landscape. It's been a pleasure having you.
Nigerian will be better. Nigerian will be great. Don't give up hope. It's better every day. I'm not among the naysayers. Nigeria is getting better. And if I look at where we are, where we're coming from, we are heading towards that Eldorado. So keep up hope, keep working, keep trusting, no crime, and we will all arrive together in that safe spot.
Yes. Thank you very much. Like Doctor said, don't be a naysayer, be positive and think of what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you. This is where we will end SOUQ Business Landscape for today. From failing or falling stock markets, rising fuel cost of taxations, aviation debt, banking competition, fiscal transparency, and regional trade. Today's stories all point to one big question. How efficiently is Nigeria creating an environment where businesses can grow, investors can thrive, and households can keep up with the cost of living? The headlines may change, but the impact continues in your pocket, your business, and the wider economy. I am Olumide Shokoya. Thank you for watching SOUQ Business Landscape. Stay informed, stay ahead, and always look beyond the headlines.
Housing infrastructure as a driver of economic growth. In virtually every nation, the discourse on economic growth often revolves around output, foreign investment, technology, and human capital development. Yet, one element that remains underexplored but profoundly fundamental is housing infrastructure. Housing is more than shelter. It is an economic commodity, a social stabilizer, and a catalyst for development. From job creation to stimulating demand in allied industries, and from serving as collateral for wealth creation to enabling urban renewal, housing infrastructure stands at the heart of sustainable economic advancement. At the core of modern economies, housing represents both a consumption good and an investment asset. For households, it is often the most valuable property they own. For governments, housing development is a visible marker of social responsibility, while for economies, it serves as a growth engine with multiplier effects across sectors. According to Bayo Olaoye, veteran journalist with SOUQ News Television, well-planned housing infrastructure is not just about erecting buildings. When integrated with urban planning, it prevents slum expansion, enhances livability, and boosts productivity. World Bank estimates show that the real estate and construction sector contributes between 7% and 14% of global GDP, depending on the region. In advanced economies, such as United States, housing-related activities, construction, real estate, mortgage finance, home improvement, and property services are major drivers of employment and wealth creation. In emerging economies like Nigeria, housing contributes about 3.1% of GDP, though with vast untapped potential. Its influence cuts across financial markets, labor absorption, raw material demand, and energy consumption patterns. One of the clearest pathways through which housing drives growth is job creation. Development requires